Give me some space. Stop contacting me unless I say so, my girlfriend told me. I said, okay. Then she showed up everywhere, calling me, controlling. By the weekend, her friends accidentally exposed what she'd been hiding, and her whole narrative collapsed overnight. Hey Reddit, my girlfriend told me not to reach out unless she contacted me first, so I followed her rule, built my own routine, and moved on. Then she started showing up everywhere calling me the manipulator. Before we get to that, let me start from the beginning. Before anyone jumps in with the both sides take, just read the whole thing first. I know how it sounds on the surface. It doesn't sound like the full picture until you get to the end. Celia and I were together about 9 months, and the first 4 were genuinely easy, the kind where you wake up and nothing feels heavy. She'd text me ridiculous client screenshots and haunted-looking houses from showings. I'd send her chaos from the clinic, a golden retriever offended by a routine checkup, a cat ruling the supply closet like a king. I'm Nolan, 29. I'm a vet tech at a small animal clinic on the east side. Been there about 3 years. It's not glamorous. Scrubs, nails, kennels, blood panels. But I like it. Animals don't do mind games. Celia's a real estate agent, and she's good at it. We met on a dating app, and our first date was this little Vietnamese spot in a strip mall. She ordered for both of us without asking, something that would usually annoy me, but she nailed it. We stayed for 3 hours, just talking. That night she mentioned her family, a younger sister, Britt, their mom Diane, their quiet dad Frank. Celia was the axis, the one everyone deferred to, whose plans became the plan. She said it like it was normal, and at the time I didn't question it. The first few months stayed smooth. We saw each other 3 or 4 times a week. Around month 3, she started leaving things at my place. A couple months in, she asked to share locations for safety. I agreed. It all felt natural. Then around month 5, things shifted. Replies got slower, hours instead of minutes. Plans became tired or busy, with no alternative offered. I figured work was ramping up, so I backed off. But her social media told a different story. She'd tell me she was crashing on a Thursday night, and then I'd see posts from that same evening, out with friends for hours, laughing like nothing was wrong. First time, I gave her the benefit of the doubt. Plans change. Second time, same thing. Third time, I started paying attention. When I brought it up, gently, not accusatory at all, she snapped. Said I was monitoring her like she owed me a report. Said I was being controlling for even noticing. That reaction hit harder than the lying did, honestly, because she made me feel like the problem was me for paying attention, not her for not being straight with me. That should have been my first real warning sign, because the version of Celia from those first 4 months, the one who seemed genuinely excited to be around me, who made me feel like I actually mattered to someone, that version started disappearing so gradually, I didn't notice until she was mostly gone. It wasn't temporary. About 6 weeks before everything went sideways for real, I was getting ready to head out on a Friday evening. Had plans with the boys, Gavin, Leo, and Rory. We'd been trying to lock down a night for weeks. Schedules kept not lining up, and we'd finally nailed down a Friday at Leo's place. Simple night, food, board game, catching up. Nothing crazy. Celia had shown up at my apartment earlier that afternoon unannounced, which was fine. She had a key by that point. She came in, kicked off her shoes, grabbed some leftover chicken from my fridge, and settled onto my couch like she lived there. Feet up on the coffee table, phone plugged into my charger, scrolling through something while she ate cold chicken straight out of the container. I was grabbing my jacket when I mentioned it. Hey, boys' night tonight. Should be back late, don't wait up. She looked up from her phone. That's tonight? Yeah. Been planned for a couple weeks. Can't you just cancel? It's not like it's a huge thing. I stopped and looked at her. She was sitting on my couch, in my apartment, eating my food, and asking me to cancel plans I'd made before she showed up. It is kind of a thing. We haven't all been together in weeks. I'm not canceling. Something shifted in her expression. That look she got when she wasn't getting what she wanted. So your friends are more important than me. That's not what I said. It's what you're showing me. What followed was about 20 minutes that I've gone over in my head more times than I can count. It started with her saying I never made her feel like a priority. Then it moved into how I should be able to read the room without being told. How a boyfriend who actually cared would adjust his schedule when his girlfriend needed him. She laid it all out calm as hell, like she'd already decided how this was gonna go. Then she said the thing. She sat up straight, put the container down, and looked at me with this steady, serious expression, like she'd been waiting to drop this on me. I think the issue is that you don't understand how this needs to work between us. I need to be the one who decides when we spend time together, when we talk. I'll reach out when I want to connect. You don't initiate contact unless I say it's okay. That's what I need. The room was quiet. I could hear the fridge humming. A car going by outside. She kept going, voice even, like she was stating something obvious. Men are supposed to adapt to what their partner needs. That's just how it works. If you can't do that, then we have a real problem here. I stood there, jacket half on, keys in my hand, looked at her for a long time, didn't argue, didn't ask why, didn't tell her that was insane or unfair or controlling. I just let it sit there in the room between us. Arguing wouldn't fix it, so I stopped negotiating with someone who'd already decided. Was it a message? Yeah, I'm not available for this. Okay, I said. That's it? Just okay? Yeah, okay. She looked almost surprised I didn't push back. Then she relaxed, like she'd just closed a deal. Good. I think that's going to make things a lot better for both of us. I nodded, grabbed my keys, walked out the door without another word, and drove to Leo's place. I didn't think about it the whole night. Laughed at Rory's jokes, gave Gavin grief about how long he took making moves in the board game, ate the pizza Leo had ordered. But somewhere under all of that, something had locked into place in my head. She'd just handed me a rule book and acted like it was totally normal, and I decided I was going to follow them. Every single one. To the letter. Sunday morning. Before I did anything else, pulled up the messages and typed one line. Just confirming what you said. You want to be the one to reach out first. I won't initiate unless you say it's okay. Took her about 15 minutes to reply. Yes, don't contact me unless I reach out. There it was. Her rules. Her words. In writing. I screenshotted it, saved it, and moved on. Monday morning, before I even left the apartment, I sat on the edge of my bed and went through my phone like I was doing maintenance. Read receipts off everywhere. Last seen off. Muted Celia completely. No alerts, no banners, nothing. Her messages could still land, but I wouldn't see them unless I checked. Then I stopped. No texts, no calls, no sending her anything. Her rules, her timeline. That same week I changed my locks through the building manager. Quiet, practical. She'd had a key. Now she didn't. The first few days were harder than I expected. Not because I missed her, but because my body was used to reaching. I'd be mid-shift at the clinic and my hand would drift toward my phone. 3 times in 2 days I almost sent her something before catching myself. By day 4 or 5, the silence stopped feeling like punishment and started feeling like relief. Gavin was the first person I told. We've been close since college. He's a bookkeeper downtown. Deadpan, sharp, the type who notices patterns before you do. Over coffee, I laid out the apartment scene and her rules. He listened, turned his cup once, and said, "My sister did this to my parents." Then he explained the whole golden child dynamic, conditional love that shows up when it's convenient, and looked at me like it was simple math. She doesn't want a boyfriend. She wants someone on standby. Leo was next. Physical therapist. Calm, confident. When I told him, he just nodded. Good. Fill that time with something better. So we did. Gym at 6 a.m., Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Gavin texted at 5:15 to make sure I was up. By week 2, I was sleeping better, and that low-level anxiety buzz finally started to fade. Rory was the 4th piece. Sous chef, loud, funny. He dragged me to his restaurant after close, and we ate in the empty dining room talking about anything except Celia. Leo started a group chat that week, just the 4 of us. Dumb messages in the middle of the day, little relief valves. It became the center of my social life without anyone naming it, and I finally signed up for the woodworking class I'd been putting off. Tuesday and Thursday nights at the community center. Walt taught it. Quiet, no nonsense. We started with cutting boards, and 2 weeks later I had one I'd made myself. Rough in places, but solid. Real. Mine. By the end of the 2nd week of going quiet, the routine was set. Gym 3 mornings a week, woodworking twice a week, dinners with the boys. The lighter feeling wasn't something I manufactured. It just showed up. About 2 weeks in, regular Tuesday morning, I was in the middle of getting ready for the clinic when I checked my phone. There were messages from Celia, then more. First one was casual, like nothing had happened. Hey, what's up? I finished getting ready, took my time, drove to work, got there around 8:30, sat down at my desk, and checked my phone properly for the first time that morning. 2 more messages had come in while I was driving. Why aren't you responding? Are you okay? I responded around noon, after lunch, took my full break, walked around the block, came back and ate at my desk. Yeah, I'm good. Just been busy. Her reply came back in under 30 seconds. Busy with what? I looked at that message for a second, felt the pull, the old habit of immediately explaining myself, accounting for every hour, justifying my existence. But that instinct was quieter now, getting quieter every day. Not to punish her, just to break the habit of sprinting every time she snapped her fingers. I put the phone away and got back to work. Over the next few days, the messages kept coming. Different angles, different tones. Sometimes casual, sometimes frustrated, sometimes sad. Why are you acting like this? I thought we were fine. This feels really immature, Nolan. That last one almost made me laugh out loud. The person who told me I wasn't allowed to reach out to her unless she said so was now calling me immature for not reaching out. The irony wasn't exactly hidden. Around day 20, she started calling. We'd barely done phone calls even when things were good. We were texters. Now my phone would ring during shifts, during gym sessions, during woodworking class when I had sawdust in my hair. I let most of them go to voicemail. Listened to them on the drive home. One stuck with me. Started soft, almost sweet. I miss you. I just want to talk. Then it shifted halfway through, her voice getting tighter. You're doing this on purpose and you know it. The flip from one to the other in the same message said more than either part did on its own. It wasn't that she missed me. It was that she missed being able to pull the string and watch me move. Answered one call on a Thursday evening because we'd have to actually talk at some point. She wanted to know where I'd been. I told her I'd been busy, spending time with friends. She pushed back, said I was playing games, that the whole silence thing was manipulative. I reminded her calmly that I was doing exactly what she'd asked me to do. She didn't like hearing that. I told her I needed more time to think about things, about us, about whether this was working for either of us. She didn't like that either. Hung up without another word. After that, the calls started coming at stranger times, past midnight sometimes. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb every night at 10. Woke up to missed calls and voicemails I didn't always listen to. Then the wrong person text arrived. Wednesday afternoon. I was on break, scrolling through my phone, when a message came in from Celia. But it wasn't for me. Not even close. Hey, can you do tonight instead? He won't be around. I read it twice. Then a third time. Stared at it for a full minute. No follow-up. No sorry, wrong person. No explanation. Just the message sitting there. I didn't confront her about it. Didn't ask what it meant. Didn't say a word. I just took a screenshot and forwarded it to Gavin without any commentary. His reply came back in about 10 minutes. One line. Add it to the folder. The folder. It started as a notes app page. Gavin's way of calming his brain down. He'd started keeping a running document about a week before that. A shared document where he logged everything. Timestamps, screenshots, dates of calls, the pattern of how things were escalating. He did it quietly, without making it a dramatic thing. Because that's how Gavin works. He just organizes chaos. That message confirmed something I'd been suspecting for a while. The timeline didn't line up. There were nights she'd told me she was exhausted, couldn't see me, needed to be alone, and now there was hard evidence suggesting she wasn't alone at all. Not with me anyway. My Gmail kicked me out one morning with a password change notification I hadn't triggered. Same thing happened to my Spotify that afternoon. Just locked me out completely. Someone had changed the password. She'd used my laptop before. Saved passwords are a real thing. Gavin flagged it when I mentioned it casually. He walked me through changing everything. New passwords on every account. Two-factor authentication turned on wherever it was available. Every change got logged in the folder alongside everything else. Friday night at Leo's place. About 3 weeks into the silence, maybe a little more. We were in the middle of a board game that had been going on for way too long because Gavin was running calculations before every single move and nobody could stop him. Rory had brought leftovers from the restaurant, some pasta thing that was genuinely absurd, and we were eating off paper plates like the sophisticated adults we clearly were not. I was laughing, real laughing, the kind where your face hurts and you can't stop even when you want to. Hadn't done that in weeks, hadn't even realized how much I'd missed it until it was happening. Around 10 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Leo's place has one of those video doorbell setups. Rory, being closest to the screen, pulled it up on his phone. The four of us looked at it together. Celia, standing there at the door, arms crossed, staring directly into the camera like she knew we were watching. She'd had access to my location history for months when we were together. She knew where I spent time. Leo's place was one of those spots. Nobody moved for a second. Then Rory grabbed his phone and hit the mic. Sorry, no deliveries after 9. Try the neighbors. Celia's expression didn't change. I need to talk to Nolan. Is he there? Rory glanced at me. I shook my head from the couch. Didn't stand up. Didn't move toward the door. Didn't engage with it at all. Rory leaned back into the mic. Nobody here by that name. Have you checked the yellow pages? She stared at the camera for about 5 seconds, then turned and walked away without another word. Rory saved the footage. Nobody asked him to. He just did it. Posted it to the group chat. The next message came from Gavin. Respectfully, no. Then Leo. Logged. Then Rory again. She said don't contact her. We're honoring her healing journey. The concern move came next, and it escalated faster than I expected. Celia texted Paula, a mutual friend from college, saying she was worried about me. that I wasn't returning calls and she was scared something might have happened. Paula came straight to me, texted me directly to check in. I told her I was fine, just taking some time. She said okay and didn't push. But the move itself told me everything I needed to know. Celia wasn't just trying to reach me anymore. She was trying to gather information about what I was doing, who I was with, through other people. 2 days after that, she filed a wellness check. Monday morning, I was lacing up my shoes, about to head to the clinic, when there was a knock at my door. 2 officers, polite, professional, nothing aggressive about it, said they'd gotten a call about a welfare check on my address. Someone had reported they were concerned about my well-being. I told them I was fine, showed them I was literally about to go to work, asked if they could tell me who'd made the call. They couldn't. That's not how it works. Thanked them, closed the door, and stood there for about 30 seconds just breathing. Then I sent a message to my building manager, flagged that 2 officers had come by on a welfare check that morning, that it was a false alarm filed by someone without my knowledge, and asked if I should file a formal report. She said yes. I did. Documented the date, the time, the officers' names, forwarded everything to Gavin. The workplace package came about a week after that. I was in the middle of a shift, post-surgery checkups, busy afternoon, when June, who works the front desk at the clinic, came back and handed me a small gift box with a ribbon on it. Said there was no return name, but there was a card attached. Took it to the break room and opened it alone. A personalized keychain and a 2-page handwritten letter. Half apology, half accusation. The kind of thing designed to make you feel guilty just by reading it. I read it once, photographed both pages, put the keychain back in the box, and emailed my clinic manager a short note. Someone had sent a personal package to the office. It was handled. Just a heads up in case anything else came through. She replied within the hour. I warned the clinic front desk not to give out info or accept anything from her again. No drama at work. That was the priority. The porch gifts started showing up after that. First one was flowers. Small bouquet left outside my apartment door with a note about how she was thinking about me. My building lobby is supposed to be secured, but people tailgate in constantly. I took a photo, brought them inside, tossed them. Told the boys about it that evening. Rory said it was romantic in a slightly unhinged kind of way. Leo said to document it. Second delivery 2 days later. Chocolates with another card. Third one was a stuffed animal, with a note that referenced a specific private conversation we'd had months ago, almost word for word. A throwaway line I barely remembered saying. The fact that she'd held on to it, remembered it exactly, word for word. That detail changed the whole feeling of what was happening. It wasn't affection anymore. It was surveillance. Rory was the first to say it. Okay, that one's not funny anymore. He was right. Leo said to stop acknowledging any of it. Don't respond. Don't engage. Don't signal that I'd received anything. Just photograph everything and keep adding it to the folder. Between that text and the wellness check, I stopped pretending there was anything left to salvage. Before that, it was limbo. That night, I ended it. Sent one message, short and final. This is over. Do not contact me again. Then I went quiet. Nothing else. Just silence and documentation from that point forward. That's when she stopped trying to talk and started trying to force contact. Gavin had the folder looking like a case file by this point. 20-plus documented incidents, time-stamped, organized by date, with context notes on each one. He showed it to me one evening over coffee at a diner near his place. Scrolled through it on his laptop while we sat there. If this ever becomes something you need to take seriously, he said, you've got everything you need. I hoped it wouldn't come to that. It did. The girl squad thing didn't happen all at once. It built up over weeks, like weather changing before a storm hits. Celia had 3 close friends who got deep into everything that followed. Mira was the one who spoke in labels and frameworks. Everything was a power dynamic. Everything needed to be contextualized through some lens. She started posting about narcissistic manipulation within days of the breakup. Didn't name me directly, but anyone who knew us could connect the dots. Phrases about men who use silence as control. About women who deserve better. Jess was the chaos one. She lived for conflict the way some people lived for reality shows. Except she wasn't watching it. She was producing it. She was the one constantly pushing Celia to confront me publicly. Show up at my gym. Come to my workplace. Force a reaction. Kaya was the content machine. Everything became material. Within a week, she was posting vague quotes about healing and recognizing toxic patterns. She pushed Celia to post too. Crying stories, vague accusations, the whole performance. Kaya curated it like she was running a campaign. Together, the 3 of them started coordinating. Not just supporting Celia, actively orchestrating the narrative. Messaging mutual friends with a version of events that made me the villain. Timing posts to hit at the same moment. Mira drafted the captions. Kaya scheduled them. Jess picked targets. One message from Kaya, pulled up later in the leaked chat, laid it out bluntly. Post the crying one Friday evening. More people see it before the weekend. No emotion in it, just logistics. It was less about being her friend and more about running some kind of operation. Some of it landed. A few people I knew casually went quiet. One guy who I'd grabbed food with a couple of times sent me a weird message about checking in that felt more like information gathering than genuine concern. The story was spreading, at least in certain circles. But here's the thing about a smear campaign. It works best when the person on the receiving end reacts, gets defensive, posts something emotional, engages with the narrative and gives it fuel. I didn't do any of that. Posted nothing. Said nothing publicly. Let it run. Around the same time, I started seeing someone casually. Her name's Asha. We'd actually met at the woodworking class. She signed up the week after I did. Ended up at the bench next to mine one Thursday evening. Funny, easy to be around. Had zero interest in anything dramatic. We started grabbing food after class one night, and it just kept happening. Nothing heavy, no labels, just two people who enjoyed each other's company. I told Asha about the whole situation before she heard about it from anyone else. Sat her down, showed her the posts, walked her through the timeline. Her reaction wasn't fear or hesitation. It was more like, that is genuinely insane. Are you handling it okay? I was handling it fine. Better than fine, actually. And having someone in my life who just wanted to hang out and have a good time, the contrast between that and everything with Celia was almost absurd. The fake accounts showed up around week 6 of the campaign. Accounts with no history, no real information. They started commenting on old posts of mine. One of them sent a message directly to Asha. I still don't know how they found her contact, implying I wasn't who I seemed to be. Asha forwarded it to me. The point didn't need words. Leo helped her report it. Account was taken down within a day, but the fact that someone had specifically gone looking for her, that was a new line being crossed, and everyone in the group chat recognized it. After that, I sent one message to Celia. Direct. No emotion, no explanation. Just one line. Do not contact me, my workplace, my friends, or anyone I date again. Sent it once. Then I went back to saying nothing at all. The family thing resurfaced around this time, too. I hadn't thought much about Diane, Celia's mom, in weeks. But Britt texted me out of nowhere one evening. We'd been friendly during the relationship. Not super close, but not strangers. She was the quieter one in the family, the one who got overlooked. Her message was short. Something like, hey, I know things are a mess right now. Just wanted you to know, she's always been like this, with everyone. Dad actually told her to stop contacting you. Mom shut him down. Don't let any of them make you doubt yourself. I read that message 3 times. Britt had watched this exact dynamic play out from the inside her whole life. Had seen Diane defend Celia no matter what. Had been the one in the family whose needs came last when they conflicted with Celia's. And Frank, quiet, step-back Frank, had actually drawn a line somewhere in all of this. Diane had just erased it. Britt was the only person in that family willing to say any of it out loud. I thanked her. We haven't talked much since, but I think about that message more than I probably should. The public event meltdown was the thing that cracked everything wide open. A mutual friend named Dante was having a birthday gathering at a restaurant downtown. Open invite. Casual. Maybe 40 people. I almost skipped it. Leo talked me into going. Said I couldn't let her take every social situation from me too. I went. Brought Gavin and Leo. Spent the first hour having a genuinely good time. Talked to people I hadn't seen in months. Laughed at stories. Ate the food. Normal stuff. Celia showed up around 10:30. I don't know if she knew I'd be there or if it was coincidence. Doesn't matter. What happened next does. She spotted me across the room. I saw her see me. Something in her expression changed. Went from surprise to something tighter. More wound up. She walked toward me. Her girlfriends weren't with her. She'd come alone. The room was loud enough that most people didn't notice at first. But when she got close enough, her voice cut through. We need to talk. Right now. Tonight. You can't keep doing this to me. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't move from where I was standing. Just looked at her. I don't want to do this here, Celia. She didn't care. Started talking louder. About how I was manipulating her. About how I was ignoring her on purpose to make her look crazy. About how everyone could see what I was really doing. The volume kept climbing. People started turning around. Leo appeared at my side like he'd materialized from thin air. Didn't look at Celia. Just looked at me and said, "You good?" "I'm good." Leo nodded once, then turned and walked calmly toward Dante. 2 minutes later, Dante approached Celia politely and let her know this was a private gathering and he'd appreciate it if she could step outside. When she didn't move, Dante asked one of the guys working the door to escort her out. The whole thing took maybe 4 minutes. Celia left without another word, But the expression on her face as she walked out wasn't anger. It was something tighter than that. Something that looked a lot like someone realizing the script had stopped working. Someone in the room recorded the whole exchange. Not me. Not any of my friends. Just someone who was watching and had their phone out. Leo made sure to get a copy. 2 days after the event, Diane texted me directly. I almost didn't open it, but I did. It was short. Said something about how Celia had been going through an incredibly difficult time because of my behavior, and with how hard things had been for her, she felt I owed some kind of compensation. The amount Diane suggested was $3,000. I forwarded the message to Gavin without comment. His reply was immediate. Screenshot that. That's the one. Then, about a week later, Jess made a mistake. She was in a group chat with Mira and Kaya, coordinating the next round of the campaign apparently, deciding who would post what, timing it out, scripting captions. At some point, someone in that chat accidentally added a mutual friend to the thread. That friend saw everything, forwarded the screenshots to me without a word. The screenshots showed the whole operation. Mira suggesting specific language about abuse and control. Jess mapping out confrontation plans. Kaya organizing post timing across platforms. And in the middle of it all, Jess wrote something that stopped me cold. He wasn't supposed to find out about the other guy until after she'd already ended things with him anyway. There it was. Confirmed. In writing. By one of the people running the campaign. Gavin added everything to the folder. Leo read through the screenshots and went quiet for about 5 minutes. Then he said simply, "Now you've got everything you need." For about a week after the group chat screenshots came out, I didn't do anything with them. Not because I was building up to something big. Not because I was waiting for the perfect moment. I just didn't feel the urgency. The documentation was there. The evidence was there. The truth was there. Sitting in a folder, time-stamped and organized. And honestly, I was tired of being part of the story at all. But then Kaya posted again. Another round of healing content. More vague accusations. More coded language about toxic men and women deserving better. It was getting repetitive, but it was still reaching people. Still doing its job. So I posted once. One screenshot. No caption. No commentary. No explanation. It was the text exchange from months back. The one where I'd confirmed her rules and she'd agreed in writing. Her reply, sitting right there, yes. Don't contact me unless I reach out. That was the whole thing. No framing, no spin. Just her own words. Time-stamped and real. I posted it and put my phone in my pocket and drove to the gym. The response didn't need me to be there for it to happen. People started putting the pieces together on their own. The timeline. The contradictions. The fact that the person being publicly called a manipulator for supposedly ignoring someone was actually following that same person's explicit instructions to the letter. You didn't need anyone to spell it out. The receipt did the work all by itself. Some people reached out to me quietly. Not a huge group, but enough. A few of them said variations of the same thing. We get it now. A few others just went silent, which told me everything about where they stood. I didn't chase anyone down about it. Didn't need to. The campaign didn't collapse overnight. Mira posted a couple more times. Kaya tried to frame the screenshot as him weaponizing her vulnerability, which was so disconnected from reality, it almost looped back around to funny. But the energy behind it was gone. The narrative had a crack in it, and once it was there, the whole thing started falling apart on its own. I said nothing else publicly, responded to nothing else, went back to living my life. The next few weeks were the quietest things had been in almost a year. The group chat stayed active. Leo sent memes at weird hours. Rory complained about his kitchen staff. Gavin sent updates about whether the folder was still intact, which it was. But the noise around me had died down. The constant low-level buzz of someone else's drama was finally, genuinely gone. The gym became routine in a way it hadn't before. Not punishment, not trying to fix something broken. Just moving my body, sleeping better, feeling stronger. Gavin and Leo were there most mornings. Asha and I kept seeing each other, casually. No pressure, no labels, no one deciding when the other person was allowed to make contact. We'd text when we felt like it. Make plans when it made sense. It was the easiest thing I'd experienced in a relationship in years. The anxiety didn't disappear all at once. It faded. Took time, but it did. There were mornings when I'd wake up and still feel that old tightness. That whole am I good enough thing. But those mornings got rarer. And then they stopped showing up at all. 3 months passed. I was at a coffee shop on a Saturday morning. Regular spot near my apartment. The kind where the baristas know your order without you having to say it. I was sitting at a corner table, reading something on my phone, half paying attention to the people around me, when the door opened and I looked up. Celia walked in. For a second, neither of us moved. She saw me at the same time I saw her. Her expression went through about 4 things in the space of 2 seconds. Surprise? Something close to embarrassment? Then something harder to read. Something that looked like resolve. She walked over to my table, didn't sit down, just stood there, hands at her sides, looking at me in a way that felt different from how she used to look at me. Less like she was calculating something, more like she was just there. Can we talk? Her voice was quieter than I remembered, steadier, less like she was putting on a show and more like she'd finally run out of things to say. I looked up at her, didn't stand, didn't smile, didn't look away either, just held her gaze and waited. I've been doing a lot of thinking about what happened between us, about how I handled things. Her voice stayed low. I know I wasn't fair to you. I know the way I set things up, the way I needed everything on my terms. I know how that looks now. The coffee shop was quiet around us. Someone at the counter was ordering. The espresso machine hissed. A door closed somewhere in the back. Normal sounds. Normal morning. She paused, shifted her weight. I'm not asking for anything. I just thought, I don't know. I thought maybe if I said it, you'd at least know I understood what I did. I took a breath, looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in months, and I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, none of that. Just nothing. It was clear as day. I didn't care anymore. Like running into an ex and realizing you don't feel anything. You got exactly what you asked for, I said. Calm, even. No edge to it. I hope it was worth it. She held my eyes for a second. Something shifted in her expression. Something I couldn't quite read. She nodded once. Then she turned and walked back toward the door. Paused for half a second with her hand on it. Didn't turn around. Then she pushed it open and stepped out. I sat there for another minute or two, finishing my coffee. The barista wiped down the counter. Someone else walked in and ordered something. Life just kept moving. I left a tip on the table, grabbed my jacket, and walked out into the sunlight. There was woodworking class tonight. Walt was expecting me. I had a new project to start. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true. My daughter said, the best gift would be having a decent father, not a pathetic loser like you. My wife agreed. So I returned the car I got her, moved out, and filed for divorce. What I did next left them both scrambling. Hey Reddit, my daughter said that at her birthday after mocking the gift I bought her. You humiliated me in front of my friends, she said. And my wife just nodded along like I was the one being unreasonable. So I taught them both a lesson they'll never forget. Name's Jacob, 54 male, living in Traverse City, Michigan. I've been a mechanic my whole adult life. 31 years of busted knuckles, brake dust in my lungs, and that motor oil smell that won't come off no matter how hard you scrub. I own my own shop now. Sheridan Auto. 6 bays and a reputation for honest work. Her name is Paige, my daughter. The girl I used to carry on my shoulders at county fairs because she wanted to see over the crowd. The girl who cried into my shirt when her first boyfriend dumped her. I sat there patting her back like an idiot, telling her she deserved better. Apparently, she agreed with that last part a little too much. 26 years old. I'd raised her since she was a screaming potato in a blanket. Changed the diapers, paid for the braces, taught her how to drive in a parking lot behind the Kroger on Saturdays when her mother was too busy getting her nails done. And this was what I got, in front of her friends, on her birthday, while a $32,000 car sat in the driveway with a bow on it that took me 20 minutes to tie. The party was Paige's idea. She wanted something big for her 26th birthday. A backyard bash with her friends, her fiancé, and enough decorations to make the neighbors think we'd lost our minds. My wife, Colleen, handled the planning. I handled the bill. That's how it had worked for 28 years of marriage. I spent the week before the party stringing lights across the backyard, setting up tables, hauling chairs from the rental place because Paige insisted plastic lawn furniture was too tacky. By the time the first guests arrived, I was already tired. But I smiled, shook hands, made small talk with people I barely knew, and waited for the right moment to bring out the gift. I'd been planning the car for months. Paige's old Honda was on its last legs, burning oil and making sounds that kept me up at night, worrying she'd break down on some back road. A Mazda CX-30. Reliable, safe, good on gas. I test drove 3 of them before picking the one with the best safety ratings. Even got it in her favorite color, that dark blue she always pointed out when we passed the dealership. The look on her face when she saw it wasn't disappointment. It was disgust. A Mazda, she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Dad, seriously? I could feel the whole vibe shift. 20 or so people suddenly very interested in the appetizer table. Her fiancé, a guy named Chester who sold insurance, stood there with his arms crossed like he was watching a show. It's brand new, I said. $32,000. Top safety ratings. 4 years of warranty. It's a Mazda, she repeated, like I'd handed her a bicycle with a missing wheel. You know I wanted a BMW. We talked about this. Mom showed you the ones I liked. Those started at 55,000, Paige. So, you own a business. I looked at my daughter then. Really looked. The expensive highlights in her hair. The designer bag hanging off her shoulder. The engagement ring that Chester's parents had probably paid for because that kid couldn't afford a ring pop on his own commission. She'd never worked a job that left her sore at the end of the day. Never had to choose between fixing her car and paying rent. Never understood that money came from somewhere. From hours bent under hoods in a shop that hit 100 degrees in July. Then she dropped this bomb. You know what? She said, and I swear she glanced at her friends to make sure they were listening. The best gift would be having a decent father who actually gets me what I want. You could hear a pin drop. I turned to look at Colleen, standing by the back door with an iced tea in her hand. My wife of 28 years. Her expression said it all before she even opened her mouth. You humiliated her in front of her friends with that pathetic car, Colleen said. What did you expect? I nodded once. Not because I agreed, because I finally understood something I'd been too stubborn to see for years. I wasn't a husband or a father anymore. I was an ATM with a pulse. All right, I said. Paige's expression shifted. She'd been expecting an argument. Expected me to get defensive, maybe apologize. Definitely given the way I always had. I pulled the bow off the Mazda, wadded it up, and tossed it in the garbage can by the garage. Then I got in the car and drove away. No yelling, just the smooth hum of the engine. My brother lives 20 minutes outside town in a house he built himself over 3 summers when he was still married. The marriage didn't last, but the house did. That's Victor for you. Everything he touches either falls apart or stands forever. No middle ground. Vic's 4 years older. He went through his own divorce 8 years ago. His ex-wife took the kids to Ohio and left him with nothing but the house and a woodworking hobby that started as a distraction and became an obsession. He's got 2 sons he sees twice a year, if he's lucky. If anyone understood what I was going through, it was him. He was on his porch when I pulled up, feet kicked up on the railing, watching the sunset. Nice car, he said as I got out. Is it yours? It was supposed to be for Paige, her birthday gift. He raised an eyebrow. Was? I told him what happened. The whole ugly scene in the driveway. Every word my daughter said. Every word my wife didn't have to say, because her face did the talking for her. Vic listened without interrupting. When I finished, he just nodded slowly, like he was thinking it over. You can stay in the spare room, he said, long as you need. I grabbed the overnight bag I keep in my truck for emergencies and followed him inside. The spare room was small but clean. Single bed, bare walls, a window that looked out over the woods behind his property. I sat on the edge of the mattress and stared at my hands for a long time. Grease under the fingernails, scars across the knuckles, the permanent calluses that never went away. These hands had rebuilt transmissions, replaced timing chains, saved customers thousands of dollars by catching problems early. These hands had also built a treehouse for Paige when she was 7, taught her to throw a baseball when she was 9, helped her move into her first apartment when she was 22. Apparently none of that was worth as much as a German logo on a hood. The next morning, I drove the Mazda back to the dealership. The salesman who'd helped me, a young guy named Dennis, who'd spent an hour making sure I got exactly what I wanted, looked confused when I walked in. Everything okay with the vehicle, Mr. Sheridan? Vehicle's fine, I said. Situation's changed. I need to sell it back. He winced. Dealerships don't do returns on new cars. Everyone knows that. But they do buy vehicles. And a 3-day-old Mazda with 47 miles on it was about as close to new inventory as they could get without unwrapping the plastic. Dennis brought in his manager, a guy I'd done brake work for a few years back. We talked numbers. They offered me $26,000. I countered at 28. We settled at 27, which meant I ate about $7,000 after taxes and fees on a car that had barely left the lot. Expensive lesson, but cheaper than a lifetime of resentment. I signed the paperwork, watched them process the check, and walked out with a lighter wallet and a clearer head. Vic was waiting for me when I got back, sitting in his workshop with sawdust on his flannel and a half-finished rocking chair between his knees. Returned it, I said. Good. He didn't look up from his sanding. Now what? I'd been asking myself the same question all morning. My phone had 25 missed calls, a mix of Colleen and Paige. I hadn't listened to a single voicemail. Didn't need to. I knew how it would go. You're overreacting. You're being dramatic. You're making this about yourself. I'm going to see a lawyer, I said. Vic stopped sanding. looked up at me for the first time. Divorce? 28 years of marriage, and she called a $32,000 gift pathetic. She didn't just side with Paige, she piled on. In front of everyone. He set down his sandpaper and wiped his hands on his jeans. You're sure about this? Not just angry? I'm angry, I admitted. But I'm also thinking straight. Vic nodded. I know a guy. Same one I used. He wrote down a name and number on a scrap of wood and handed it to me. Leonard, Traverse City. I called the next day and scheduled a consultation for the end of the week. The receptionist asked if this was a contested or uncontested matter. I told her I honestly didn't know yet, but I had a feeling it wouldn't be friendly. The law office was in a strip mall between a nail salon and a sandwich shop. Not exactly impressive. The man himself matched the office. Mid-60s, gray beard, reading glasses perched on his nose. Tell me about your assets, he said after we'd covered the basics. I walked him through it. The house, purchased 22 years ago, paid off 9 years early because I worked overtime every chance I got. The shop, which I'd built from nothing with a small business loan I'd repaid in full 8 years ago. 2 vehicles, retirement accounts, a savings account that I'd been quietly building for years without telling Colleen because she treated money like it grew on trees. Leonard took notes, asked questions, made sounds that could have been approval or concern. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and studied me. Michigan is an equitable distribution state, he said, not community property. The court divides assets based on what's fair, not necessarily 50-50. What does that mean for me? It means we can argue that assets you brought into the marriage, assets you built independently, should weigh in your favor. Your business, for instance. Your wife's contribution to that business would be evaluated. She's never set foot in my shop except to complain about the smell. He almost smiled. Document everything. The more records you have, the better your position. I'd been documenting everything for years, without even realizing it. Tax returns, business receipts, maintenance logs for every vehicle we'd owned. I'm a mechanic. Paperwork is half the job. Every repair gets written up. Every part gets a receipt. Every hour gets logged. That weekend, Vic helped me move the rest of my stuff out of the house. Colleen wasn't home. Paige's car was in the driveway, though. The old Honda I'd been worried about. Still burning oil. Still making sounds. Vic had borrowed a trailer from a friend, and we loaded it with everything that was clearly mine. Tools from the garage. The collection I'd been building since my first job at 17. The recliner my father had left me. Worn leather and creaky springs. Worth nothing to anyone except me. Boxes of photographs from before the marriage. We made 3 trips. The first one was the easy stuff. Things Colleen wouldn't notice missing. The second was harder. Items with shared history that I had to decide whether to fight for. The third was just me, walking through the house one last time. The garage hit me hardest. I'd spent hundreds of hours in that space, teaching Paige to change her oil, rebuilding carburetors on weekend projects, just existing in a place that felt like mine. The workbench was covered with tools I was leaving behind. Too big to move, too built into the house to take without a fight. You okay? Vic asked when I came out. I will be. You're really doing this, Vic said as we strapped down the last load. Yup. He clapped me on the shoulder. About time. The divorce papers were filed the following Monday. I had them served at the house while I knew Colleen would be home. The process server called me afterward to confirm delivery, her voice totally flat. She seemed surprised, she said. I bet she was. Colleen's reaction came 3 days later, when she showed up at Vic's house unannounced. I was in the garage helping him finish the rocking chair when her car pulled into the driveway. The engine was running rough. I could hear the knock from 20 feet away. Probably needed new spark plugs and a fuel injector cleaning, but that wasn't my problem anymore. She got out looking like she hadn't slept. Hair messy, makeup smeared, the kind of disheveled that Colleen would never normally let anyone see. For a second, just a second, I felt something like guilt. Then I remembered the look on her face when she called a $32,000 gift pathetic. You filed for divorce, she said. Not a question. Yep. Without even talking to me first. Talking takes 2 people who actually want to listen. You made it pretty clear whose side you were on. She crossed her arms, her go-to defensive move. You're throwing away 28 years because of one bad night? I set down the screwdriver I'd been holding and gave her my full attention. One bad night? Colleen. It wasn't one bad night. It was 28 years of being taken for granted, topped off with you calling my gift pathetic and our daughter wishing she had a different father. In front of everyone. On her birthday. She didn't mean it like that. Then how did she mean it? She didn't have an answer. Vic had quietly disappeared into the house, giving us space. I want the house, she finally said. Paige and Chester are getting married next spring. We need the space for the wedding. I almost laughed. Showing up to haggle over real estate when the divorce papers weren't even dry yet. That took some nerve. Leonard Voss is handling all that, I said. Have your lawyer call him? Leonard Voss? Her eyes narrowed. You're using Victor's divorce lawyer? Yup. Jacob, this is crazy. We can work this out. You're just upset. I'm not upset, I said, and I meant it. I'm done. Big difference. She stared at me for a long moment, looking for something in my face. The old Jacob, maybe. The one who backed down, smoothed things over, wrote checks to make problems disappear. That guy was gone. You're going to regret this, she said. We'll see about that. She got back in her car and drove away, engine still knocking. I watched until she turned onto the main road, then went back inside to finish the rocking chair. Vic was in the kitchen, making coffee. How'd that go? About like you'd expect. He handed me a mug. You know she's going to fight dirty. Counting on it, I took a sip. Let her. I've got 31 years of records and a lawyer. The next few weeks were a blur of paperwork and preparation. Leonard Voss was worth every penny. He pulled records I didn't even know existed, tracked down documentation of every major purchase, every contribution to the household, every time I'd bailed Colleen out of a credit card hole she dug herself into. The picture that came together wasn't pretty. Over the years, I'd paid off more than $60,000 in credit card debt that Colleen had racked up. Department stores, online shopping, lunches and dinners that added up to hundreds a month. She'd been living beyond our means for years, and I'd been too focused on keeping the peace to call her out. Meanwhile, my business had been growing. Sheridan Auto went from 3 bays to 6, from 2 employees to 5. The shop was worth close to $400,000 now, built entirely on my reputation and my work. Colleen had never contributed a single hour. Leonard laid it all out in a spreadsheet that made my eyes water. Assets, liabilities, contributions, withdrawals. When I saw the numbers side by side, I felt sick. Not because of what I'd lost, but because of how long I'd let it go on. This is strong, Leonard said, tapping the spreadsheet. Very strong. Your wife's counsel will probably push for mediation before trial. Let them push, I said. I'm not taking less than what's fair. The shop became where I lived, basically. I threw myself into work, taking every job that came through the door, staying late to catch up on paperwork, arriving early to prep the bays. My guys noticed the change but didn't say anything. There's something about engine work that clears your head when you don't want to think about your personal life. The focus it takes to track down a problem, trace a fault, fix something that was broken. Every car I got running again felt like a win when everything else was chaos. One week, I had a customer bring in an old Mustang that 3 other mechanics had given up on. Intermittent stalling. No clear cause, the kind of problem that makes you want to push the car into a lake. I spent 2 days on it, traced the issue to a hairline crack in a vacuum line that only opened up when the engine hit a certain temperature. The customer nearly cried when I handed him the keys. That felt good. Vic stopped by every Tuesday with lunch. It became our thing. He'd show up around noon with sandwiches from the deli down the street, and we'd eat in my office while he told me about his latest woodworking project, and I filled him in on the divorce. Colleen's lawyer is pushing hard on the house, I told him one Tuesday. Says she has a right to it as the family home. What's Leonard say? That we can counter. The mortgage was paid off with my income. Her name's on the deed, but she never put a dime toward the payments. Vic nodded. You still have records of all that? Every check, every bank statement, every payment confirmation going back 22 years. He grinned. That's my brother. Paige reached out a month into the proceedings. Not a call, not a visit. A text message. 4 words. This is your fault. My fault. I'd worked 60-hour weeks to give her everything she wanted. Paid for her college when she dropped out after 2 years. Paid for her apartment when she couldn't make rent. Paid for her car, her insurance, her dental work. The math didn't add up, but entitlement never does. I didn't respond to the text. The mediation happened in late October. Conference room in a downtown office building, all glass and chrome. Colleen showed up with her lawyer, a sharp-dressed woman named Elaine, who looked like she charged $500 an hour just to make eye contact. Leonard and I sat across from them. The mediator, a retired judge named Franklin, sat at the head of the table like he was running a very boring game show. Colleen wanted the house, half my retirement, and alimony. Her lawyer pitched it as fair compensation for 28 years of being a homemaker and supportive spouse. I kept my face blank while Leonard laid out our side. The spreadsheets came out, the bank records, the documentation of every major purchase, every debt I'd paid off, every contribution I'd made to the household. Elaine's face changed as she looked through the documents. She'd clearly expected a different story than what the numbers showed. You could practically watch her rethinking her whole approach. My client built his business from nothing, Leonard said calmly. He paid off the family home with income from that business. He covered over $60,000 in credit card debt run up by Mrs. Sheridan over the years. The idea that he should now hand over half of everything to someone who contributed nothing financially is frankly insulting. Colleen's face went red. I raised our daughter while he worked. Paige is 26 years old, Leonard replied. She hasn't needed raising in almost a decade. What have you contributed since then? The mediator called for a break. We stepped out into the hallway, and Leonard pulled me aside. They're going to come back with something more reasonable, he said. Elaine knows her case just took a hit. What do you think they'll offer? Probably the house in exchange for dropping the alimony. Maybe a smaller cut of retirement. I thought about it. The house where I'd lived for 22 years. Let them have the house, I said. I don't want it anymore. Leonard nodded. What about the business? Off limits. She doesn't touch the shop. When we went back in, Elaine presented a revised offer. The house, 30% of retirement, no alimony. Leonard countered with the house, 15% of retirement, and a clean break. They took it. Walking out of that building, I felt lighter than I had in years. The house was gone, but it had stopped feeling like home a long time ago. The money was manageable, and Sheridan Auto was still mine. Every wrench and lift and bay. Vic was waiting in the parking lot. He'd insisted on driving me. Well, he asked. It's done. House is hers. Shop is mine. He clapped me on the shoulder. Then let's go celebrate. I'll buy you dinner. Winter came early that year. First snow in mid-November. The kind that sticks around and makes everyone miserable. I moved into an apartment across town. A 2-bedroom with a view of the parking lot and neighbors who kept to themselves. I spent Thanksgiving at Vic's place. Just the two of us, eating sandwiches and watching football, because neither of us could cook a turkey without turning it into a biohazard. He'd finished the rocking chair and presented it to me like it was a trophy. Beautiful work, smooth finish, perfectly balanced. Oak, hand-selected from a lumberyard 3 hours away, because Vic doesn't do anything halfway. The joints were tight, the curves felt right, the whole thing was built to last generations. I put it on my balcony and sat in it every morning with my coffee. You're getting philosophical in your old age, Vic said when he caught me out there one morning. I'm learning to appreciate small things, I replied. Paige got married in March. I wasn't invited. Heard about it secondhand from a cousin who still talked to both sides of the family. Small ceremony, backyard venue. The same backyard where she told me I wasn't a decent father. Funny how that worked out. Chester's parents paid for everything, according to the cousin. The dress, the catering, the photographer. Colleen contributed the venue, which was really my contribution since I'd mowed that lawn for 22 years, but who was counting anymore? Besides me. I didn't send a gift. Didn't send a card. Just let the day pass like any other Tuesday. Spring brought some changes. The shop was busier than ever. Word of mouth filling my bays with more work than my guys could handle. I hired 2 more mechanics. Young guys fresh out of trade school, who reminded me of myself 30 years ago. Hungry, eager to learn, willing to put in the hours. I was building something new. Not just the business, but a life that wasn't all about people who didn't appreciate me. Joined a bowling league with Vic, which sounds lame until you realize it's just an excuse to hang out and throw heavy objects at wooden pins once a week. Our team was called the Spare Parts, which I thought was clever. We were terrible, consistently last place, but nobody cared. It was 2 hours every Thursday, where the only thing that mattered was knocking down pins and talking about nothing important. Started cooking for myself instead of eating takeout every night. Turns out I'm not bad at it when I actually try. It felt good making something with my hands that didn't involve engines or wrenches. Even adopted a dog from the shelter, a grumpy old mutt named Bruno, who'd been passed over by everyone looking for puppies. He was 8 years old and had the personality of a retired bouncer. The shelter lady said he'd been there 6 months and nobody wanted him. I signed the paperwork that afternoon. Bruno and I got each other. We'd both been left behind by people who wanted something newer, and we'd both decided that staying bitter about it was a waste of time. He didn't need much, just food, walks, and someone to sit with while the sun went down. I could do that. I'd spent decades doing more for people who appreciated it less. The binder idea came to me one night while I was going through old tax returns for the shop. I'd kept everything, every receipt, every statement, every record of every dollar that had flowed through my hands for the past 3 decades. Paige used to make fun of me for it. Called me a hoarder. Said normal people threw that stuff away. Normal people didn't end up needing proof that they'd spent a lifetime supporting ungrateful family members. Turns out my paranoia was actually preparation. I started putting it together. The same way I approached a complicated engine rebuild. Section by section, year by year. College tuition payments from when she enrolled. Then the refund I never got when she dropped out after 2 years because she decided school was boring. Apartment rent for the 3 different places she'd lived when she couldn't make ends meet. Car insurance premiums that I kept paying even after she was old enough to handle it herself. There were medical bills when she broke her arm skiing in college, a trip I'd also paid for. Credit card statements from when she maxed out her first card at 22 and I bailed her out. The dental work when she cracked a tooth and didn't have coverage. Emergency car repairs when she ignored warning lights until something actually broke. The numbers added up to just over $140,000. That's what I'd put into Paige beyond the basics of food, shelter, and clothing. $140,000, not counting inflation, not counting the interest I'd lost by emptying my savings over and over instead of letting it grow. I put it all in a black binder with tabs and labels. Set up like a case file. Just facts. On the cover, I wrote 3 words. What I gave. Vic saw it during one of his Tuesday visits. Picked it up, flipped through it, let out a low whistle. "What are you going to do with this?" he asked. "Not sure yet. Maybe nothing, maybe everything. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of years." He set the binder down and looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. "You know this won't change how they see things." "I know, but it might change how everyone else sees things." He was quiet for a minute. Then he nodded. "If you're going to do something, do it right. Send them to the people who matter. Let the facts speak for themselves." The opportunity showed up 6 months later, like it had been waiting for the right time. Paige and Chester bought a house. Heard about it from the same cousin who kept me in the loop on family stuff. Nice place in a subdivision on the north side of town. 3 bedrooms, 2-car garage. The thing about buying a house is that you need good credit and a solid income. Chester's insurance job wasn't exactly bringing in big money, and Paige was working part-time at a boutique making barely above minimum wage. So how'd they afford the down payment? The numbers didn't add up, and I'm good with numbers. The cousin filled in the gaps. Colleen had taken out a home equity loan on the house I'd given her. Used the money to help Paige and Chester with their down payment. $40,000. Borrowed against equity I'd built with 30 years of engine work and overtime hours. The same house I'd paid off early. The same house I'd walked away from to keep the peace. Now bankrolling another generation of entitlement. I shouldn't have been surprised. But hearing it out loud, hearing that my work had been turned into a gift for the daughter who'd publicly wished for a different father, something in me just went quiet. Vic noticed the shift when he came by that Tuesday. "You've got that look," he said, setting down his sandwich. "What look?" "The one you get right before you do something either really smart or really stupid." He studied me for a second, then nodded. "Whatever you're planning, just make sure you can live with it after. That's the only rule." I could live with it. That was the thing. I'd spent 28 years biting my tongue and living with choices I didn't make. This one would be mine. I made copies of everything in the binder, 27 pages of documentation, plus a cover letter explaining what each section showed. Then I sent it to the only 2 addresses that mattered. Colleen's sister, who'd always seemed to get my side of things, and Chester's parents, who apparently thought they'd raised a self-sufficient son marrying a self-sufficient woman. I didn't include a return address. Didn't include a note asking for sympathy or understanding. Just the facts, laid out clearly, and let people make their own calls. From there, it spread the way things spread in small towns. Someone tells someone, who tells someone else, and within a week, half the county knows your business. Things started falling apart within a week. Chester's parents called Paige wanting answers. Why had they heard that Jacob paid for her college? Her apartment? Her car? Why had they thought Paige was financially independent when the numbers said otherwise? They'd helped pay for their son's house, only to find out their daughter-in-law came with a lot more baggage than advertised. The conversations weren't fun. Chester's mother, from what I heard, used the word deceived more than once. His father asked some pointed questions about what other surprises were coming. Colleen's sister called Colleen. That didn't go well either, according to the cousin. Lots of yelling, lots of accusations, years of family drama finally blowing up. Colleen had apparently been telling her side of the family that I was the crazy one, that I'd bailed on my family over nothing. The binder told a different story. Her sister started asking questions Colleen didn't want to answer. Chester also started asking questions Paige didn't want to answer. The cousin said there was tension, fights, long silences stretching through whole evenings. The newlywed honeymoon was done, replaced by what happens when you realize your partner came with more history than you signed up for. Chester's parents had apparently pushed for couples counseling. Paige had apparently told them to stay out of it. That went about as well as you'd think. I heard all of this secondhand through the family grapevine. I didn't reach out, didn't gloat, didn't do anything that could look like rubbing it in. Here's the thing about facts. They don't need you to defend them. You put them out there and let people do the math. Colleen could spin whatever story she wanted, but she couldn't argue with bank statements. Paige could say she was independent all day long, but the receipts said something else. Colleen tried reaching out once. I let it go to voicemail. The message was short. I hope you're happy with what you've done. I was. Genuinely. The confrontation happened on a Sunday evening in late fall. I was out on my balcony with Bruno when a car pulled into my apartment complex. Paige's car. The same Honda I'd worried about for years. Somehow still running. She got out slow, like she wasn't sure she wanted to be there. Took her time walking to my building, then up the stairs. The knock on my door was hesitant. I opened it and looked at my daughter for the first time in over a year. She looked beat. Older than 27. The kind of tired you get when you figure out the world isn't going to give you what you want. Can I come in? She asked. Balcony's fine. We sat out there. Her in the spare chair, me in the rocker Vic had made. Bruno sniffed her once, decided she wasn't worth his time, and headed back to his bed by the sliding door. Chester's parents won't even talk to us, she said. They're furious. They think I lied about everything. Did you? She dodged the question. They didn't need to know all that old stuff. The past is what built your present. You think that down payment came from nothing? That house your mother mortgaged? I paid for it with my hands. Every dollar she gave you started with me. You didn't have to tell everyone. No, I agreed. I didn't. But you didn't have to call me a pathetic father in front of your friends either. Actions have consequences. That's something you should have figured out a long time ago. She stared at me, and for a second I saw the kid who'd crashed her bike and come running to me with bloody knees. The girl who trusted me to make everything okay. I'm sorry, she said. I know it doesn't fix anything, but I'm sorry. Sorry it happened, or sorry you got caught. The question just hung there. She didn't have a quick answer, which told me everything. I want to fix this, she finally said. I want my dad back. I rocked slowly. You know what's funny? I said. I never left. You pushed me out. You and your mother standing in that driveway, making it clear that nothing I did would ever be enough. I gave you 26 years of my life, and you threw it back at me because I bought the wrong brand of car. I was stupid. I was spoiled. I get that now. Do you? Because there's a difference between knowing something and actually understanding it. You can know you hurt someone without getting why it mattered. She wiped at her eyes. What do you want me to do? Just tell me and I'll do it. I looked right at her. See, that's the whole problem. You want me to hand you a script, tell you how to act so everything goes back to how it was. But how it was? That was you taking and me giving until I had nothing left. Then what? You want to fix this? Earn it. Don't just show up with sorry and expect everything to be fine. Start being someone who gets the value of what she threw away. When you can look me in the eye and tell me what you've actually changed, not just what you feel bad about, then maybe we talk. And if I do, then maybe we have a conversation. But I'm not making promises. And I'm not sitting around waiting while you decide if I'm worth the effort. Now I'm putting myself first. If that's too hard for you, there's the door. She sat there for a while, working through it. I could see her wanting to argue, wanting to push back, but she held her tongue. Maybe she'd finally learned that attitude wasn't going to win this one. I'll try, she said quietly. Trying's a start. She left a few minutes later, head down. No hug, no big promises, none of the dramatic makeup scene I half expected. Just walked to her car and drove off. The engine still sounded rough. Probably would until she learned to take care of things herself. Bruno wandered back out and dropped at my feet. I scratched behind his ears and watched the last of the daylight fade. I didn't know if Paige would actually follow through. Didn't know if she had it in her to change the way real fixing things required. But that was on her now, not me. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.